This is Tales and Whispers, where every story is felt, not just heard.
All right, I've got a wild story for you today. Just imagine, for a second, waking up one morning and suddenly having access to a limitless fortune. Not because you won the lottery, not because of some brilliant investment, but because of a simple computer glitch. Well, this isn't a movie script. This is the true story of Daniel Sanderson, the accidental millionaire. $1.6 million. Let that number sink in for a moment. That's the staggering amount of money at the very heart of this story. Money that just appeared out of thin air and would completely turn one man's life upside down. But the real question is, how on earth does an ordinary guy, a bartender just trying to make ends meet, suddenly get his hands on the kind of money most of us only dream about? That's the puzzle we're going to piece together. And it all started with a tiny, almost invisible crack in the financial system. So, let's set the scene. The year is 2011. We're in Australia. Our guy, Daniel Sanderson, is working behind a bar, living a completely normal, pretty modest life. He had absolutely no idea he was about to stumble onto something that would change everything. So how did this even work? Well, one day, Daniel goes to an ATM and realizes he can pull out cash even though his account is basically empty. He had found what's called a fast payment glitch. It's a rare system error where the ATM spits out the money, but for a short window of time, it doesn't actually tell the bank. It's like the system was completely blind to what was happening. I mean, can you even imagine the temptation? On one side, you have his reality, a bank account with next to nothing in it. And on the other, a magic machine that seems to offer limitless cash. This was the fork in the road. Report it or run with it. Well, Daniel made his choice. He didn't call the bank. Instead, he started taking out money, a lot of money. And this kicked off an absolutely unbelievable 5-month-long spree where he lived out every single fantasy you could possibly imagine. And look, this wasn't just a one-time thing, a single bad decision. We're talking about nearly half a year of this. He started off, grew bolder, and by month 3, he was living a life that was just off the charts, right before it all came to a screeching halt. So what exactly do you do with $1.6 million of glitch money? Well, Daniel went all in. We're talking insane parties in fancy hotels, renting private jets, buying all the designer gear he could get his hands on. But here's the fascinating part. He was also incredibly generous. He paid for his friends' college tuition and just gave away lavish gifts. It was this really strange mix of pure excess and, believe it or not, generosity. But here's the thing. While he was living this high life on the outside, a totally different story was playing out on the inside. That dream lifestyle, it came with a serious psychological cost. And this right here, this quote, it really gets to the heart of it all. Despite all the parties, the jets, the money, the guilt was eating him alive. It got so bad that he literally couldn't sleep at night. The weight of it all was just becoming too much to handle. You have to put yourself in his shoes. Imagine the constant knot in your stomach. Every single time he swipes that card, every trip to the ATM, it was just another reminder that this whole fantasy was built on a lie. He knew the clock was ticking, and with every dollar he spent, that feeling of dread just got heavier and heavier. So how does a joyride like this end? You'd probably expect some dramatic police raid, maybe a chase scene, right? But the end to Daniel's story, well, it was just as strange as the beginning. Here's the kicker. The police weren't closing in on him. The bank hadn't caught on yet. Nobody was actually chasing him. As far as we know, the authorities had no clue this was even happening. So if he didn't get caught, then what happened? In the end, it was his own mind that brought the whole thing crashing down. Completely overwhelmed by the guilt, after all those sleepless nights, Daniel Sanderson walked straight into a police station and turned himself in. He was his own downfall. So now we get to the aftermath. The 5-month party was officially over, and it was time to face the music. And there are some pretty big lessons to take away from his story. As you'd expect, yeah, Daniel was sentenced to prison for fraud. But all through the legal process, he showed genuine, deep remorse for what he'd done. And the fact that he surrendered, that he turned himself in, well, a lot of people saw that as a sign that deep down, he was a good guy who just made a really bad series of choices. When you boil it all down, his story is just this incredibly powerful cautionary tale, isn't it? It proves that the idea of easy money, of getting rich without earning it, can be a massive trap, and it almost never leads to real happiness or any kind of peace of mind. And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. It's easy for us to sit here and say, oh, I'd do the right thing, I'd report it immediately. But if you were really standing there in front of a machine that would give you limitless cash, be honest with yourself. What would you actually do?